and welcome to round one of Pro Tour Fate Reforged here in Washington, D.C. I'm Brian David Marshall. I'm joined by Ian Duke. Welcome to the coverage team, Ian. And we are going to watch Luis Scott-Vargas, the Pro Tour Hall of Famer. There you get a look at him, the head of Channel Fireball, a guy who really led the vanguard of this big team movement that we've seen. And speaking of big teams, his team teamed up with Team Face-to-Face Games, and Sam Pardee was one of those players who he teamed up with, and he's going to be playing Sam. There you get a look at him, something of a modern master. And these guys are ready to go. What does the matchup look like here, Ian?
It should be a really exciting match. As we saw Luis draft earlier, he ended up with a blue-white sort of Jeskai deck. He's splashing red for Jeskai Ascendancy, and he's got a lot of prowess, a lot of manifest, and he's definitely a tempo-style deck. Sam Pardee, on the other hand, he's a black-green deck, but also splashing white and blue, so sort of a four-color control with a couple bomb rares in there.
Enoch Bonkin is the first play from Luis Scott-Vargas. He was looking like he might be just straight blue-white early on in the draft, but he is playing red, and there's his mountain. Sure. And he is going to be casting right into being. He gets to look at the top two cards of his library. He gets to put one of them into play as a manifest. It looks like that was a Salt Road Patrol there, and then he gets to push another one or keep it on top of his library.
So this is a great start for Luis here. He's definitely the aggressive deck in this matchup. Pardee's deck being black-green base, he's got lots of high-toughness creatures. So Luis is going to want to start off fast and strong and kind of put Pardee on the back foot.
Well, there you get a look at some of the cards that Luis Scott-Vargas has to work with. He taps out for a Lotus Path Djinn on turn 3. Sam Pardee's done nothing so far other than develop his mana base. There's a Disowned Ancestor. Let's take a look at what he's got to work with here. You see a Bellowing Saddle Brood, a Rotting Mastodon, and lots of toughness there. Lots and lots of toughness.
So note where the Pardee has a kill shot in his hand here, which he might use this turn to pick off one of Luis's attackers, regain a little bit of tempo there. And sure enough, he does. Lotus Path Djinn.
Sure, he's going to 13. My guy's going to die. Sounds good.
There you hear Luis. So we go, okay.
So of note here, Luis has a Crippling Chill in his hand, which he's just going to use to keep the pressure up if Pardee taps out for a high-toughness creature that he can't otherwise get through.
Right, and plays an Abzan Sky Captain there.
So Pardee with somewhat of a clunky hand here. He's just going to want to buy time to deploy all the power and toughness, I guess, that he's got in his hand right now.
Well, Luis has just curved beautifully here.
Absolutely, and pretty soon that Jeskai Ascendancy is going to come down, which is just going to keep supplying him with gas, keep Pardee on the back foot, let Luis make very profitable attacks here.
You know what? He just drew an island, so he can actually go Jeskai Ascendancy into Crippling Chill.
Yeah, we'll see if he decides to use that Crippling Chill this turn. I think he probably will, just because he's got a lot of ground creatures that can't get through the archers there.
Oh, there's the Jeskai Ascendancy. He attacks with everybody. Before blockers, he does Crippling Chill. Gets to untap his team and give them +1/+1. He just loots away a card and draws a card for the Crippling Chill.
Just a great turn for Luis here. Note that he's already got plenty of land in play. He's got all his colors. So in many ways, looting each turn is going to be almost like drawing a card. You know, he can just discard those excess lands and keep the pressure up.
There's an Abomination of Godal for Sam Pardee. Just pays full price.
So that is a little bit of a roadblock for Luis here, but his deck is so spell-heavy that chances are he's going to find something to go with the Jeskai Ascendancy here. But sure enough, he does put the brakes on, actually. Just adds a Whirlwind Adept there.
Yeah, that was a signature card for Luis at the Grand Prix. He's coming off a Grand Prix win last weekend. You know, we have and Whirlwind Adept was a big part of that. So more mana for Sam Pardee. Taps 5 and makes a big dumb elephant, the Rotting Mastodon.
A 2/8. So he's putting up quite the roadblocks here, making it a challenge for Luis to get through.
Go.
Luis looking for some spells to combo with the Jeskai Ascendancy. Note that the Whirlwind Adept has prowess on its own plus the Jeskai Ascendancy, so it's going to get +2/+2 for each spell that Luis plays.
So outlasts the Enoch Bonkin. And he's going to add a Jeskai Elder to his board. So, I mean, Sam's at 7. So, you know, if Luis can find 1 or 2 spells, he can just get it done just with an alpha attack.
Absolutely. However, in the meantime, Pardee actually has a Death Frenzy lurking somewhere in his deck. So if he can reach that before Luis is ready to attack, he can sweep away a lot of Luis's small creatures.
And Sam starts digging with the Abomination of Godal. He attacks and is able to loot away a card.
And adds a Bellowing Saddle Brute, I believe that is.
Yeah. So he gets double value out of the attack. He gets to loot, and he also gets to trigger Raid and not have to fall to 3 to play that Bellowing Saddle Brute. But Luis is looking. He's like, wow, I've got more guys than you do. I've got 2 more attackers than you have blockers. What is he drawn here?
A couple useful things lurking still in Luis's deck. He's got a 2nd Crippling Chill, a Suspension Field, and a Feat of Resistance, all of which would sort of help him break through this board stall.
Well, he does have he's drawn a Right into Being this turn.
So that actually can help him dig quite a bit. He looks at the top 2 cards. Can put 1 on the bottom if you want, then he gets to loot with the Jeskai Ascendancy as well.
Well, he loots with the Ascendancy first, right? He loots with the Ascendancy as soon as he casts it, but he's got an extra land in hand, and then he gets to set up maybe his next draw step.
And that really shows the power of these manifest spells that make creatures in these Jeskai Prowess decks, where it can allow you to get more creatures in your deck while still keeping your spell count really high to trigger Prowess.
Right, he'll get +2/+2 on both the Elder and the Adept.
So I think right now he's thinking, do I want to use this Right into Being to dig and look for, some removal spells or some answers, or do I want to save this for the turn when I'm going to make a big attack? And maybe that turn is even this turn. So he's doing some mental math here, counting up Prowess triggers. And it looks like he's going to go for the Right into Being this turn, potentially even drawing into another spell, which would just be huge. But nope, he decides to...
Well, no, he chose to outlast his Einok Bondkin first. Now, Right into Being is going to trigger the Jeskai Ascendancy, untap. He gets a little bonus on the Bondkin. Draws a card. He's going to discard an island here.
So there you have the choice between spending some mana to outlast and then untap his creature afterwards versus getting a look with the Right into Being first at what he might draw into, or rather what he might loot into with the Jeskai Ascendancy, and potentially holding mana up for that. But he decided to outlast.
So he drew a Jeskai Student, it looks like. Yeah, he is going to pitch the island. Looks at 2 cards. One of them gets put face down as a creature, leaves the other one on top. So that's almost certainly a spell and not a creature.
And this could be an indication that Luis is setting up for a big attack, possibly next turn.
How bad is this attack this turn?
It's not terrible. I mean, most of his creatures have 3 toughness now with the trigger from the Jeskai Ascendancy. And most of Pardee's creatures have 2 power, so he could just decide to make a big attack and force through some damage.
And he's got multiple creatures with 4 toughness in the Elder, the Adept, and the Bondkin.
And it's really tough for Pardee to make double blocks with 2 2-power creatures on one of Luis's 4 toughness creatures right now, since Pardee is so low on life.
Luis just like, I really want to attack. The inclination is send everyone in.
Yep. But Pardee with 3 mana open, I mean, he's seen some tricks like Kill Command already. Pardee might have another trick in hand.
Here we go. In comes the team.
I know it's against your policy.
a little lands in front.
I'll let you know when I'm done.
Grief from Sam Pardee.
So Pardee taking his time to match up blockers with the attackers here. Again, it's tough for him to double block here, which he would otherwise really want to do, but being so low on life.
Best case scenario here is Sam's killing 1 creature. He's going to kill the Adept. I mean, obviously, spells in hand will
I think it's a really good choice to trade with the Whirlwind Adept here. Just the hexproof makes it really difficult to answer outside of combat with removal spells. So taking the opportunity to trade with the Bellowing Saddle Brute, perhaps.
So the way it stands now, Sam is taking 3. He's going to drop to 4. and both players are going to go down a creature.
And of course, the other 3 pairs of attackers and blockers just going to bounce off of one another.
Trade, take 3.
Yep.
Trade, take 3.
And Luis is up a creature for next turn from the red into being he cast this turn.
And as we know, Luis kept his card on top. So we might be looking at the very least, another spell to trigger Jeskai Ascendancy, but ideally something like a Crippling Chill or a Suspension Field to actually remove a blocker in addition to triggering the Ascendancy.
Sam Pardee, he's like, wow, I really want to attack for find that Death Frenzy right now.
Yeah, the nice thing about Luis's attack there, lowering Sam on life, means that the Abomination of Gudul probably can't get in this turn, which would be an extra loot, an extra card for Pardee to see.
Unless he decides he can't win without Death Frenzy.
Right.
He does have Rite of the Serpent, though. Rite of the Serpent on the Einak Bondkin is going to take out one of the more powerful attackers on Luis's side and give a snake token
That's actually huge.
to Sam because there was a +1/+1 counter on the Einak Bondkin.
Yep, love that play there. Gives him an extra chump blocker, which he really needs to, just survive and buy time. Also taking out the Bondkin, which is really powerful with the Jeskai Ascendancy, as we saw. Luis can outlast and then untap and still have it as an attacker, or outlast a second time. So it looks like Luis Scott-Vargas did pick up the Suspension Field, one of the cards I mentioned earlier. This can help him remove a blocker and also trigger the Ascendancy in the same turn, so just huge for him.
Right, but bides his time on it. Plays a Jeskai student. And Sam goes on the attack.
14 and all loot.
An important loot here.
And it looks like we're going to see a Sultai Emissary, one of my favorite cards in the set.
Another great way to buy time.
Oh, and a Sorin!
And Sorin, wow. One of the reasons why Pardee is splashing a 3rd and 4th color in his deck. And this is
Sorin,
just
Solemn Visitor.
a huge pickup for him here. The lifelink is just going to put him right back into the game, boosting his life total. He did +1 on his turn, but remember that Sorin's +1 ability actually lasts until your next turn. So it's still active on Luis's turn, which makes it really difficult for Luis to attack.
And now he can also just minus it and keep up on the creature front.
That's right, and Luis has no air defense right now, so if he can stabilize the board and start making some tokens, he'll be in good shape.
Okay, here comes a Suspension Field.
Luis just realizing, I need to act soon. This Sorin is going to take over the game.
He's going on.
So loots away an island.
That's a good question.
Unfortunately, I'm not sure if he has great attacks here. I mean, he does have 6 creatures to Sam's 4, potentially, depending on what he targets with the Suspension Field. Which could let him make, sort of a suicide attack into Sorin to take out the Sorin, but he'll probably lose a creature or 2 in the process.
Well, he could take out the Mastodon. It's not.
The trouble is, if Luis
takes out the archers.
intends on taking out Sorin, he's going to have to send all of his creatures at Sorin, which then lets Pardee make those beneficial double blocks to actually pick off Luis's creatures and gain life in the process.
But taking out the archers now lets him get in for 3 in the air and drop Sam to 1.
Don't have the spell to kill you, unfortunately.
So Luis just being upfront about the fact that he needed another spell for another Ascendancy trigger there to get in for the win.
This guy on.
So now he has to decide if he wants to attack Sam or drop the Sorin down to 2. And he does. He sends it at Sorin. He has an opportunity to drop Sam to 1 there, but we know that's not going to last if Sam has an opportunity to...
Yep.
So he had flipped up the Salt Road Patrol, and now he gets to outlast that.
So by attacking Sorin down to 2 there, he makes it a little bit more difficult for Pardee to attack with the Abomination of Gudul, which would leave him with no way to block a flying creature. And then Sorin then is threatened the next turn.
So getting a couple of results on the back table. It sounds like Joel Larson is up 1-0 over Martin Yuza. Here comes the Sultai Emissary after playing an Orc Sure Shot. So that's going to let him start to pick off Luis's creatures. Every time another creature comes into play, target creature an opponent controls gets -1/-1 until end of turn. So, he can also just use Sorin, make a token, and pick something off. If the Sultai Emissary dies and manifests a creature into play, that's going to be a -1/-1 trigger. Or Orc Sure Shot, one of those uncommons that can really tussle with some of the rares
Absolutely.
in Fate Reforged.
Makes an already complicated board state even more complicated for Luis to navigate.
Okay. So Luis has a Crippling Chill.
And this is a huge pickup for Luis here. This is the second Crippling Chill. Taps down the Abomination of Gadul, which had been left back on defense to hold off the Abzan Sky Captain. This both clears the way for the Sky Captain and gives it a Jeskai Ascendancy trigger, boosting it to 3 power to take out the Sorin. So just a huge pickup for Luis there.
But again, not the second, didn't draw the second spell he needed. Well, it doesn't finish Sam off because Sam now has clawed his way back up to 6 life.
That's right, taking advantage of the lifelink from Sorin. But now the Sorin is gone, so Luis can start to put the pressure on again. And, Sam's got to feel pretty threatened here with his life total low and no immediate ways to recover it.
Pecks in with the Sultai Emissary.
Luis unwilling to block there because of the Orc Sure Shot, producing another creature, which could then, potentially finish off something that blocked it. Or
is this going to be a treasure cruise for Luis Scott-Vargas?
All right.
Treasure Cruise, trigger Ascendancy. Yep.
Oh my gosh, trigger the Ascendancy.
Luis, a man known for his love of cruising.
Yeah, we're not going to see this combo in Modern.
That's right.
But it's still good enough for Limited. And there's the Icy Blast. And Luis Scott-Vargas takes game 1 from Sam Pardee despite a visit from Sorin. We'll be back with more Magic right after these brief messages.
Ultra Pro is the place to go for all your Magic accessories. With card sleeves, deck boxes, playmats, and portfolios showing off the best Magic art, Ultra Pro is the standard in safe storage. Visit ultrapro.com for more information. Hunt bigger game by playing in a Grand Prix. These open tournaments feature the best players in your region as well as top Magic pros from around the world. Upcoming Grand Prix include Seville, Memphis, Vancouver, Miami, Liverpool, Cleveland, and Auckland. Visit magic.wizards.com/Grand Prix for the complete schedule.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. We are doing a live look-in on Shouta Yasuoka, one of the most famous of the Japanese Magic players, a Pro Tour champion, and a former Player of the Year, 371 lifetime pro points, playing against Ari Lax. Yeah, Ari Lax, our Pro Tour Kanzatarkia champion, and Ian Duke, the King of the Hill.
That's
he
right.
comes into the tournament as the King of the Hill. As long as he keeps winning, he'll stay in that seat. If Shouta Yasuoka wins this match, he'll stay in that seat. We see Abzan guides just bashing across the table here.
Just trading blows with lifelink, of course. Looks like we have Yasuoka on a little bit of the back foot here in terms of life total, but he is up a creature here. And of course with the lifelink from the Abzan guide, looking like he can stabilize. And Ari with a full grip here and lots of mana untapped, so Yasuoka really needs to think about, what did he leave up here? Is it a kill shot, some sort of combat trick?
So this is game 2, by the way. Ari Lax up a game. So halfway to maintaining his King of the Hill seat.
Yeah.
So in comes the Morph. The Abzan guide stays back.
Yasuoka probably fearing a kill shot or something like a Dragon Scale boon that could ambush his Abzan guide.
Oh, and there's a Bear's Companion. And a gain land. It looks like a Dismal Backwater, but he had the throttle. It wasn't a kill shot.
Yasuoka looking to have access to all 5 colors, I believe, here. So pretty interesting deck.
Yeah, five colors, a deck that a lot of people feel is no longer viable.
Oh, I go more. Yes. Yeah.
Although we have seen some players take advantage of dual lands and the 3-color gold cards going a little bit later in Fate Reforged draft compared to triple cons. So
Arilax goes up to 33 there with a bolster for 3 on his Obzon Guide and gaining 4 life in the process.
So Yasuoka really needs to find an answer to that Obzon Guide pretty quickly here. Ari's just getting farther and farther ahead on life. Yasuoka on the back foot here, but with a full grip and 6 lands untapped, it's likely that he has something here.
Gets in with a 7/7 and a long shot squad. Do you double block the long shot squad here if you don't have anything in hand and, you know, say, I'll try to find a Rite of the Serpent next turn?
Yeah, I think it's likely that Yasuoka has something here during combat, but he might double block to induce Ari into doing something or playing something before he has to make the opportunity. Yasuoka just pondering his blocks here. Potential combat tricks.
Or just maximizing some time in the spotlight. Definitely looks like he has a handful of not lands.
More first.
So he does put the 2 creatures in front. Ari says more first, but Awaken the Bear. He says, you know what? I want a 10/10 lifelinker this turn. Arilax takes the match against Shadow Yasuoka, retains the King of the Hill seat, coming off his Pro Tour victory. You know, he won his way through the top 8. He's won his first round here. Arilax stays the King of the Hill. There you get a look at the feature match area. Joel Larson up 1 game on Martin Yuza. Luis Scott-Vargas, of course, we just watched go up 1 game on Sam Pardee, and I'll try to get you an update on Ivan Flock versus Pro Tour champion Craig Wesco as well. All right, those guys are still in game 2. Craig Wesco, the Pro Tour champion, teammate of Arilax, our Team TCG player, is up 1-0. So we're gonna come back. We see Luis and Sam shuffling up, and you know, looking at their decks, how do you feel like Sam matches up well? I mean, he mulliganed that game and was under a pretty aggressive start from Luis.
Yeah, I think it's really going to depend on how strong Luis's start is. One thing we see when looking at Luis's deck list is he's actually a little bit creature light.
I feel like all of his creatures were in play that game.
That's right.
All right, we're underway with a Swamp from Sam Pardee.
Yeah, so Luis really looking for some early pressure backed up by things like Crippling Chill here. But again, you know, he doesn't have that many early creatures in his deck, so he could potentially just get a clunky draw.
Stone time. Yep, your turn.
And so far, Luis on double island with no plays until at least turn 3
Right.
here.
Turn 2 Archer's Parapet for Sam, sitting on his Flooded Strand, waiting to see what he wants to do with that.
I do see a Plains in Luis's hand, though, so even though he has 3 islands in play,
Right.
I think he's just sort of bluffing color screw here, when in reality he has the colors he needs, but just no early plays.
Right. So there you see a Flooded Strand and a Windswept Heath go to the graveyard for Sam Pardee, getting ready for the modern format.
That's right.
Here in Limited.
We've seen Jeskai Ascendancy plus Treasure Cruise, and now, you know,
double fetch land activation and no Sorin Solemn Visitor. He's going to use those 2 fetch lands to fuel his Delve to cast a turn 4 Hooting Mandrills, but that is going to get Disdainful Stroked. So, you know, you talked about that kind of bluffing mana screw. maybe that hides the fact that he's sitting on a counter there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's exactly what Luis was doing there.
And a Lotus Path Djinn comes down. And the bellowing saddle brute is bellowing in pain because there's no raid trigger for Sam, and he has to take 4 to put that into play.
Yeah, I'm sure Luis has mixed feelings about that. On the one hand, he loves to see Sam taking that early damage, 4 to the face from the bellowing saddle brute. But on the other hand, he's staring down a 4 or 5 creature, which he isn't ready to handle yet. But Lotus Path Djinn can fly right over both those blockers, knocking Pardee down to 13. Of course, those 2 fetch lands taking away some life as well. So what seemed to be a rocky early start from Luis is actually turning around a little bit, although we do see a peek.
I'll give you a look at Luis's hand, though.
We do see a peek of Sorin Solemn Visitor in Pardee's hand, and that lifelink, of course, can get him right back into the game.
And he uses Hunt the Weak on his Bellowing Saddle Brute to take down the flyer.
So it's
cannot hit the Water Whirl Adept.
Right. It's interesting here. Pardee was probably thinking, do I want to try to maneuver to get the Sorin into play first, then use it to give lifelink to my creature and Hunt the Weak with the creature and just regain a lot of life? But he says, no, I just want to take the tempo here and take out that flyer while I still can and get in there for 5.
Another land for Luis Scott-Vargas. Draws the Windscarred Crag, plays it, gets in attacks with the Adept. Here comes Sorin. You got it, says Luis.
And Luis in a little bit of trouble here with just the 1 Whirlwind Adept, no further pressure on the board. So,
I like Sam's combat. Luis is like, yep. Sam's like, maybe not.
Sam, of course, respecting the crippling chills, but also thinking about things like kill shot, or maybe even, I don't know, refocus to untap the Adept.
Yeah.
Declines to attack.
Sure. There's our Treasure Cruise. 6 mana. Dig 3 cards deep. Luis had nothing going on there. He was all lands. So, this is going to be a big jump start for him.
Yep. And despite the Adept being a 5/3 that turn, he still declines to attack because, of course, the Sorin +1 is still active there. Probably just trade for the Saddle Brute and give Sam 5 life back.
Again, I think there's 11 actual creatures in Luis's deck.
Well, that's if you count the manifests. Right? So 3 of those are like spell creatures, sort of, right?
There's the Sultai Emissary. Here's a Morph.
Plus,
And Sorin jumps to 6.
And now with those additional blockers back, Pardee ready to get in there with the Saddle Brute. Regain some life. Starting to turn the tide here.
Yeah, 6 power Saddle Brute with lifelink. Pretty exciting. And not really a great attack for Luis. You get to upgrade your Sultai Emissary into something here and gain 2 points of life.
Although Luis did have that Treasure Cruise last turn, so hopefully he's stocked up on some gas here.
Oh, it looks like he hit a bunch of spells. He has a Valorous Stance. He has a Crippling Chill. He has a Right into Being.
So starts off with the Crippling Chill, I believe, there.
Yeah, and he takes down the Sultai Emissary.
Right, he's saying, if I attack you this turn, Sam, I want you to block with a real creature, not just this Sultai Emissary that's going to manifest when it dies.
And casts Right into Being, pushes a land to the bottom. Looks like he manifested a real card into play. It's an Einok Bondkin. So
6/4, right?
Attacks with a 6/4 Adept, 2 prowess triggers. And he has Valorous Stance ready in his hand, but it's not really worth using on the Archer's Parapet. He can still just block anyway. He's probably going to save it for the Saddle Brute, which he does.
Right, and it goes up to 7/5, and
It's a 7.
so there's 4 points of power there thanks to the Sorin for Sam Pardee, but
So that's interesting. Pardee actually opted to double block with his 0/5 Archer's Parapet.
well,
and his
it was a 1/5.
Oh, that's right, 1/5. Yeah, so threatening to take out.
But the Valorous Stance gets the 3-for-1 there.
Yeah, well crafted by Luis.
Gain 3.
He sort of
Oh,
bait.
but there's Death Frenzy, and Death Frenzy is going to
You're at 22.
clear the board. and including his Sultai Emissary, which then upgrades into a manifest. And he just keeps ticking Sorin up.
Yep, huge turn there for Pardee.
Then you take a look at Death Frenzy. That also gains him a bunch of life. 1 life for each creature that goes to the yard that turn.
And Luis just about out of gas, just adds the Jeskai Sage to the board here, but that's not going to be enough to really pressure Sorin. We'll see if Pardee decides to go for the ultimate here. I think he probably
did.
will. Yep.
Yeah, he did.
Gets that one-sided Abyss emblem.
So there you go. The beginning of each player's upkeep, that player sacrifices a creature. This is going to be a challenge for Luis, and he's not up to it. He says, yeah.
We hit a fatty.
Wow. Sorin Solemn Visitor just doing everything that game.
Yeah, definitely the key card in both games we've seen so far.
Despite getting 3 for 1 on the previous turn.
Yeah, I really like that attack by Luis, actually. Just baiting him into the double block and then taking advantage of it with the Valorous Stance, adding an additional prowess trigger.
Yeah, we actually don't have any Magic to live look in right now while these guys sideboard. Joel Larson has taken his match against Martin Yuza 2-0. Craig Wesco and Even Flock are heading to game 3. It sounds like they've evened things up. And we're heading to game 3 in our match as well. So if one of those matches starts, if the Craig Wesco Ivan Flock match starts, maybe we'll take a live look in while these guys finish tuning up their lists. How do you sideboard here? I mean, you look at what do you start thinking about? What cards? We saw
question.
Luis draft a Soul Summons on the draft coverage, but we see that he's not playing.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting to me. Normally, you'd think Soul Summons is just what a deck like Luis's needs. It's sort of a pseudo creature that's also triggering your prowess, but he declined to play it here, and I think that's actually fortunate for him in this matchup. I mean, Pardee has so many high toughness creatures that a 2/2 creature, if he doesn't manifest into another creature, is just going to lose value in the late game. And of course, we've seen Pardee has Death Frenzy as well to sweep that away. One thing we did see, Luis sideboard in Disdainful Stroke, which I just love in this kind of a matchup. It's a tempo positive card. He can spend 2 mana to answer something that cost 4 or more from Pardee, and so many of the cards in Pardee's deck cost 4 or more, with all these huge fatty creatures and bombs like Sorin and Death Frenzy.
Just think of the 2 haymakers that Sam landed that game were the Death Frenzy and the Sorin.
Absolutely.
And countering either of those is tremendous.
Yeah, and one thing we haven't seen show up yet is Pardee actually has a copy of Silumgar, the Drifting Death, in his deck, which Luis hasn't seen.
That sounds so ominous.
Yeah, and it is indeed. Threatening to sweep away small creatures. It's hexproof, so it's really difficult to answer. And BDM, it's also a great combo with the Death Frenzy. So you can attack with Silumgar, give -1/-1 to your opponent's creatures, and then actually kill all the 3 toughness creatures.
Also a great combo with Orc Sure Shot.
Absolutely.
You get to you make a manifest or a morph into a 1/1 after you attack, and then post combat pick some things off, or pre combat pick some things off.
And so many of Luis's creatures are low toughness creatures because they have prowess. On Sam's turn, they're going to be vulnerable to things like the Orc Sure Shot, Death Frenzy, and Silumgar.
Yeah, Jeskai Ascendancy really seems like it was the card that made the difference in game 1 for Luis.
Absolutely. That and in combination with Luis's fast start. So Luis will be on the play here again, which takes a little bit of the pressure off in terms of him needing a super fast start, but he's still going to be looking for those early creatures.
Now there you see, he looks at his opening 7 cards. I think I see an Ascendancy. Yeah, and we're underway. Both players keep 7. Plains leads things off for Luis Scott-Vargas.
Looks like a little bit of a mana light hand for Luis. I don't see an island in his hand, so it could be a little bit dangerous if he doesn't draw into his mana.
Disowned Ancestor for Sam Pardee.
And sure enough, Luis starting on 2 plains, no second turn play, and no follow-up land, I believe. Whereas Pardee starts off with a Whisper of the Wilds.
Yeah.
Accelerating his mana.
Going up to 4 mana on turn 3.
But Luis hits his island.
And there's right into being. So he's going to make a manifest creature, and then he's going to be able to sort of sift a little bit through the top of his library. He's like, well, I like this card. I'd like to draw it next turn. I don't want to draw either of these cards next turn. I'll put 1 on the bottom, put 1 into play.
Yeah, and it looks like he sees 2 non-land cards there, so I think he's likely to manifest 1 and put the other on the bottom. which he does. And Pardee able to take advantage of his 2-mana accelerant here, which is just huge in this format. Such a mana-intensive, mana-hungry format, and Pardee's deck especially, that's one of the best starts he can have.
Right, four color deck for Sam Pardee. Doesn't jump to 4 there. He plays Dismal Backwater and then just casts Assaulti Emissary and passes the turn.
And with the Disowned Ancestor and the Emissary there, preemptively ready to thwart Luis's attack.
Oh, look at the agony there. The Treasure Cruise is the creature face down in play.
Despite bottoming a card from the right into being, Luis fails to hit his 4th land drop, and on Sam's upkeep, he uses Crippling Chill just to cycle, basically, and draw a card. He needs to kind of regain momentum.
Yeah,
a little bit.
he Crippling Chills the mana, but Sam is able to attack with the Disowned Ancestor and to trigger Raid and play a Bellowing Saddlebrute.
The classic 0-point attack,
Yeah.
although it is a 4-point life swing in some sense.
And in comes the Brute.
So he's, kill shot from Luis. That's at least good.
Right. If he's not playing creatures, he's got a lot of spells in his deck.
But this is still bad news for Luis. I
Yeah.
mean, as we mentioned earlier, he is the aggressive deck in this matchup. And the fact that he's stumbling early just gives Pardee time to develop his board and set up his defenses.
Outlast the Disowned Ancestor, play a Morph, 4th land for Luis, and the 3rd color of mana. You can see his hand. He's got lots to do here.
Yeah. So
What do you like out of this hand here? Do you like the
I
Lotus
like the
Path
Lotus
Djinn?
Path Djinn.
Yeah.
Yeah, just having a little bit of extra toughness, getting an extra creature on board before he plays the Abzan Sky Captain increases the chances that even if it dies, he still gets to bolster onto something.
Yeah, and we're just going to unmorph Abomination of Gadul for Sam Pardee.
Oh, that's just brutal. I think Luis was really hoping that Pardee wouldn't put together an aerial defense there. But in fact, Pardee puts together an aerial offense by flipping up the Abomination and getting to loot. So this is just bad
digging
news.
for his more powerful cards now.
Yep, absolutely. Pardee has more than enough land, so looting again gets closer and closer to drawing a card when you can just get rid of those excess lands.
Outlasts his Disowned Ancestor, and Luis Scott-Vargas attacks with the Lotus Path Djinn, and then what do we see here? Salt Road Patrol or Abzan Sky Captain?
I think he's going to go with the Sky Captain. I mean, I think Luis's only chance in this game is to put together an air attack. Pardee just has so much on the ground to block with. He's otherwise not going to get through. And the more Luis gets his air offense together, the harder it is for Pardee to justify attacking with the Abomination of Gadul.
Right. And the more terrifying that Jeskai Ascendancy that's sitting in his hand is going to become. So Sam keeps up his offense card selection engine.
So Pardee sitting pretty comfortably here. He likes the way the game is going. He just wants to kind of continue at this pace, playing powerful threats, getting with the Abomination and looting.
I think we're going to see an Orc Sure Shot here.
And if we do, this could be particularly threatening, because if Pardee can assemble playing 2 creatures in the same turn, he can pick off the Sky Captain if he wants, or any of Luis's generally small creatures that he has in his deck.
Yeah, he's holding a Archer's Parapet, but he's under no pressure to play it this turn. He can just he plays the Sure Shot, plays the Parapet, and doesn't bother killing anything.
So important to note, BDM, Luis Scott-Vargas does have his Icy Blast in his hand, which could be one of his routes to victory.
Wow.
So I think if we see Luis pulling out this game, it's going to involve Jeskai Ascendancy into multiple triggers into an Icy Blast. I think that's what he wants to set up here, but we'll see how much time Pardee gives him.
Oops. So we're going to see Jeskai Ascendancy here.
Yep, and I like this play. Getting in with some flyers.
And now he's holding Feet of Resistance. And so he can actually untap his team with Feet of Resistance, get a Prowess trigger, get +1/+1s all across the board from the Jeskai Ascendancy, and
he can
start
actually
digging.
threaten to take out the Abomination of Gadul this turn. The question is, does he want to do that into Sam Pardee's open mana? And I think he needs to take the risk here.
Well, Sam is sending in the team. Here's the Feet of Resistance. Trigger Jeskai Ascendancy. Draw a card. Looks like he'll discard that Plains.
So this has got to be a terrifying moment for Luis here. On the one hand, he's threatening to set up
discard Salt Road Patrol.
a great ambush here in combat.
That's the risk of lands in front, Luis. Sometimes you think they're your creatures.
So it looks to set up the ambush here, but he's got to fear. I mean, Pardee has cards in hand and lots of open mana, so he's just kind of crossing his fingers and hoping that this works out as well as it looks like it might.
Right. That's a 3/4 Lotus Path Djinn. That's a 4/4 Abzan Sky Captain. That's a 3/3 Morph there. Oh, I'm sorry, Manifest, which we know is a Treasure Cruise. He's deciding whether or not he wants to put that at risk. Besides, he's happy just getting rid of the Sure Shot and the Abomination.
So this is a turn that could really decide the game here. If Pardee doesn't have anything...
Oh, wow, he chooses to block the Sultai Emissary. No, wait, or chooses
still
not
thinking.
to block the Sultai Emissary.
Block like that.
He just decides to block like that. So Luis takes 3. 2 huge creatures go down for Sam Pardee.
Yeah, that could turn out to be the key turn of this game.
And Sam plays his 7th mana and passes his 8th mana if you count his Whisper.
Yep.
And in comes 5 aerial damage from Luis Scott-Vargas. Drops Sam to 9, 9/9. Yeah, gain a life.
And this
Play
is
a Whirlwind Adept.
this is just how Luis was hoping to sculpt the game. Remember, he still has that Icy Blast in his hand. Now he has the Whirlwind Adept to ensure that he gets the Ferocious Trigger on that, which will tap and freeze Sam Pardee's team.
But Rakshasa's Secret takes out Luis's hand and takes out the Icy Blast.
Oh my gosh.
He was going to be able to win the game with next turn.
Yeah, that's just, wow, backbreaking.
And Sorin Solemn Visitor lands for Sam Pardee.
Yeah,
Holy
a
cow.
turn sequence that started as a dream for Luis and is turned into a nightmare now. He loses his path to victory with the Icy Blast and now sees Sorin coming down, threatening to regain a whole bunch of life for Sam Pardee and put him out of range of Luis's aerial attack.
So, and he attacks with, he just chumps the Disowned Ancestor, and Sam gains back that 5 life he lost last turn.
Wow. So Luis really under the gun here, drawing off the top into an empty hand.
He can kill Sorin here.
Yep, he's certainly going to want to seize that opportunity.
Oh, and there's a Crippling Chill.
So Luis did draw a spell, which is great for him. He gets to trigger Prowess and the Ascendancy.
Chooses not to just draw and discard a card.
Saves his Whirlwind Adept in combat and takes out Sorin.
Locks down the Disowned Ancestor for a turn. And, kills the Parapet and the Sorin. Wow.
So this
Great
is
turn.
actually, this is anyone's game at this point. I mean, Pardee did regain a lot of life in that brief window with the Sorin, but he doesn't have much in the way of creatures right now, and his Disowned Ancestor is locked down, which will let Luis get in a big attack next turn. Of course, he lost his Abomination of Gudul into that ambush 2 turns ago, and so he has no real flying blockers here to stop the Sky Captain and the Lotus Path Djinns. So Luis, despite being behind on life, he has the more threatening board here, and we could see this just roll into a victory if Pardee doesn't draw anything relevant.
Wow. Hunt the Weak.
Hunt the Weak, a nice pickup there.
Now another counter on the Disowned Ancestor. Takes down one of the flyers. Lotus Path Djinn goes off the path.
So we'll see Luis certainly attack with the Sky Captain and the Whirlwind Adept here. Pardee has only the Whisper of the Wilds and the Sultai Emissary with 1 power to block, so both can safely get in there. There's some consideration to not letting Pardee manifest, but I think he's just going to get in there anyway.
Yeah, but then he's looking, the risk of that is he's looking at 5, but he does have a spell in hand. Luis Scott-Vargas has drawn right into being, so he's going to be able to attack. He's trying to decide, do I want to attack and then play the right into being and untap my guys, or do I want to play right into being and power up my guys? So he can outlast that Einok Bondkin, play right into being, untap the Einok Bondkin, get in for 4 with the Bond King, 4 in the air with the Sky Captain, and 5.
Yeah, that sounds like a great line. There's a little bit of consideration to waiting until he has an extra card in hand to loot, but I think he's just going to seize the opportunity while that Disowned Ancestor is tapped down.
Yep,
And just try to act quickly before Pardee's ostensibly more powerful deck can get back into the game.
And he does that. So he manifests 1, pushes the other card to the bottom. So it's something he gets a blind card, and now what's the attack he wants to line up here? Everybody.
Yep, sends them all in.
Does his best Gary Oldman impression and yells, "Everybody!"
Block the whirlwind adept.
Yep.
Sure. So you take 8.
Pardee blocking the Whirlwind Adept, just trying to absorb as much damage as he can,
Right.
but still takes 8, dropping him down to 8. So now that Disowned Ancestor untaps. Unlikely to see that outlast again. Oh, but actually he does get an attack here.
Yeah, he attacks with both. It was a Forest. There's a Typhoid Rats for Sam.
Yep, and that's lining up to block the Whirlwind Adept, I'm sure. So interesting that Sam attacked there. I guess he figures he doesn't have an answer to the Flyer. His main realistic hope of winning this game is just to try to race a little bit. And the fact that he drew the Typhoid Rats and knows he'll have a blocker for the Whirlwind Adept means he can get in there for a little bit of damage.
Luis sends in his first striker and his flying first striker.
Yep. Holding back the Whirlwind Adept. There's no sense in trading it into the Typhoid Rats.
Oh, and look at this. Take up arms. Unbelievable. 3 creatures for Luis Scott-Vargas. Jeskai Ascendancy trigger. Gets to untap the 2 first strikers. Gives them a bonus. Puts them in front of the Ancestor. Takes it down. And Luis Scott-Vargas wins the match. 2 games to 1. Totally on the power of Jeskai Ascendancy.
Yep, absolutely. That was the key card for him there.
Wow, there you go. You get a look at the... We'll get a look at the overhead shot, and Ivan Flock, Pro Tour champion from Pro Tour M15, playing against Craig Wesco, of course, the Pro Tour champion himself. And there we see a Water Whirl bouncing Craig's team. It sounds like we might be coming in the closing stages of this game.
And that manifest is a rage-formed manifest, so it does have double strike there. So cracks in for 6, it looks like.
Replays an Alpine Grizzly. And replays another creature. I'm not sure which one that was. Oh, it plays Hooting Mandrills. There you're going to look at the life totals. 7 for Ivan Flock, 15 for Craig Wesco. This is game 3.
Looks like Flock has an Outpost Siege on Cons mode, which lets him exile a card each turn, and then he can play it until the end of his turn. So he gets a Jeskai Elder off of that.
How do you like the Outpost Siege?
Oh, it's just a phenomenal card. I mean, we've talked about some players shying away from red a little bit, but this is one of those rares that I could open in pack 1 and would just let me dive into red. Either of these modes just absolutely devastating. Having a personal Howling Mine on Cons or just a very difficult to deal with source of repeatable damage on dragons. These are both excellent.
So Rush of Battle's a play for Craig Wesco here, and he attacks with his 2 creatures, a 6/5 Trampling Mandrills and a 6/3 Alpine Grizzly. And it looks like...
All 3 are blocking this guy? Is that correct?
Yes.
So triple block on the Mandrills, just trying to absorb as much of that trample damage as possible.
Yeah, Ivan's down to 7, so... And there you see Craig Wesco.
Be first, second, third. So these 2 die, he dies.
So Flock just doing a lot of trading here, which I agree with. He's got the Outpost Siege there, so he just wants the game to last a little bit longer. He's essentially drawing 2 cards a turn to Wesco's 1.
Right, and then then a Mardu Horde Chief comes down with Raid, puts 2 creatures into play.
Wesco appears to be out of cards in hand.
Yeah, not the case for Ivan Flock, who plays gets a free land off of his siege, and then plays a Gorswine to go with his manifest creature, or his morph creature.
Gorswine, not the best creature facing off against a 1/1 token, but can threaten to block.
Protect this.
Yes.
And again, I think Flock is happy, sort of trading down, so to speak, here.
Oh, is that a Teamer Sabertooth?
Oh
off
my
the
goodness.
top?
Huge pickup for Wesco. Letting him rebuy the enter the battlefield trigger of the Horde Chief if he wants to.
Oh
in
my-
addition to, just having a 4/3 indestructible creature.
Right.
Seems pretty good to me.
Fierce Invocation for even Flock. So he gets a 4/4 manifest creature here.
Teamer Sabertooth, one of the premium uncommons in
Yeah,
Fate
one
Reforged.
of the mythic uncommons.
Yeah.
There's a couple of them. Wow, just like, that outpost siege is just generating so much card advantage for Flock. In comes the Sabertooth.
Yep.
And we are running tight on time here for these guys. So indestructible and replay the Horde Chief, get an extra token. This is how you do it.
Yep. Just Sabertooth chomps down a creature and essentially adds another token to the board for Wesco. So he's just trying to chip away against this outpost sieged, fueled army of Flocks. Flock on the defensive in terms of life total. And also, again, trying to just prolong the game and sort of out-card Wesco. But that's going to be hard to do against a Teamer Sabertooth. It's just so much value, so difficult to deal with.
Well.
So Flock decides to turn the corner here and start getting it on the offense.
Sends in Glacial Stalker, sends in War Name Aspirant, sends in Gorswine, and sends in his 4/4 manifest creature.
Yeah.
There's a Teamer Battle Rage from the Outpost Siege sitting there, so he can play that card. And that's a big swing. He can get in for 8. His Gorswine can trample over for 7, get double strike, not lose anything to the token. Teamer Battle Rage, another card that had a big coming out party at Grand Prix San Jose.
Yeah, this is a card that it's a little bit deceptive. I mean, generally these kind of combat tricks that don't give you power and toughness, players shy away from them, but this has the potential to be really powerful.
Limited Mastermind Yoel Reeves has called the card the Red Savage Punch.
Yeah.
Because look at it here. You're going to kill a creature and do a ton of damage. So, look at it on that Gorswine.
That is.
He's casting.
Yeah.
Can't quite see what that card is.
6 power.
Oh, is that Dragon's Claws?
Yeah, I believe so.
Dragon's Grip, sorry. So now that brings it up to a 6. It brings it up to 6 power, and now Teamer Battle Rage. Battle Rage means that's essentially 12 trampling damage.
Right.
1
So-
point of first strike on the token, and then 11
So that's
points
11 trampling over, plus there's an unblocked Glacial Stalker for the additional 4. West goes at 15, so 11 plus 4, that's the game.
Even Flock takes
Wow.
the win. Wow. The Siege looked terrific there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's no way he would have been able to sort of play defense for that long without the extra card flow from the Siege.
Wow.
And a surprising turning the corner there and just
Yeah.
flipping things over on Wesco
Yeah,
for 15 points all of a sudden.
Craig Wesco in this great position.
Mm-hmm.
He's got the Teamer Sabertooth. He's got the Mardu Horde Chief. He's able to make a token, but you can't beat a Teamer Battle Rage.
Sometimes it just gets you.
So it was really the Siege there. We're going to send it back to the news desk and get ready to turn around and bring you round 2 here as quickly as possible. Sending it back to the desk. Ian Duke, Brian David Marshall.
All right, thank you very much to Brian David Marshall and Ian Duke. A great combo there for round 1. Right now, it's time to know your enemies.